To do. Gary Patterson. Some say he has guts. I say he costs his team a chance. Urban Meyer.
How long is this?
They win Bedlam. Oklahoma State needs to beat its rival and then needs Baylor to lose one of its final two games. For Baylor to win the Big 12, the Bears have to win their finals two games, and they need Oklahoma State to beat Oklahoma.
Now, we talk about the quarterbacks there, all right? Oklahoma State, they've got two quarterbacks. Now, they haven't lost, but they got two quarterbacks.
They played two quarterbacks.
And they played two quarterbacks on purpose. Baylor's now down to their third, all right? We don't have that same depth from Oklahoma.
QB's falling in the Big 12. TCU down to its third as well.
It's the 80th anniversary of the Heisman Trophy. In 1935, the University of Chicago's Jay Berwanger won the Heisman Trophy. Who will be this year's Jay Berwanger? The question everybody wants to know the answer to. Welcome to Drive Through Carey Chow alongside Adam Rittenberg. So at this point in the season, it seems as if Alabama's Derrick Henry is the clear-cut favorite. He's now at 21 touchdowns on the season, ties the school record with Trent Richardson. He's run for a touchdown in 16 straight games. If he's number one, though, who has the best shot at catching him?
It's going to be tough, Kerry. I thought last weekend was really important for someone to make a move. With Alabama playing Charleston Southern, you didn't figure Henry to have a whole lot of playing time, just 9 carries in that game, did have a couple of touchdowns. But it was really a chance for a guy like Ezekiel Elliott to catch up. We know what happened there. A guy like Baker Mayfield only played a half in their win against TCU, so there was a kind of a missed opportunity for him. So I think Clemson's quarterback, Deshaun Watson, has not gotten any attention for some reason in the Heisman race. He's been the quarterback of the nation's #1 team since the playoff rankings first came out. So I don't know what he needs to do to generate more buzz. He's putting up big numbers, great completion percentage. They have South Carolina this week, not a great team. I don't know how much that's going to help him, but there will be more eyeballs on him in the ACC championship game. The other guy I think I would certainly watch is Christian McCaffrey from Stanford. Dynamic running back and return man, and I think those returns, being able to have those highlights on returns can really help his Heisman cause. And he has 2 big games left with Notre Dame this week and then the Pac-12 championship against USC or UCLA to follow.
Christian McCaffrey with incredible lineage. His father, Ed McCaffrey, a longtime NFL receiver. His mother, also a tremendous athlete in her own right. This week in Week 12, it seemed like there's some separation. You mentioned Ezekiel Elliott. He really had a chance to make some noise in the Heisman race. Instead, he only made noise after the game, complaining about the play calling. In addition to Ezekiel Elliott kind of falling out, who else has really fallen out of this Heisman race?
You know, Corey Coleman of Baylor, wide receiver, was a player we were talking a lot about a few weeks ago. 20 touchdown catches, I believe, through the first 7 or 8 games. And then beginning with the Oklahoma game, his production has gone down. You know, last week against Oklahoma State, it was K.D. Cannon, his fellow wide receiver, that had the big performance for Baylor. It's so hard for wide receivers to get attention in this race. Our own Desmond Howard is the last wide receiver to win the Heisman. And so he needed to continue that incredible production in these bigger games against the Oklahoma schools, and he did not. Corey Coleman still, in my mind, if not the best, one of the 2 or 3 best receivers in the country, but I don't think it's realistic at this point that he gets back in the Heisman race.
He was on such a tremendous touchdown catching rate. He was set to break Troy Edwards' all-time mark of 27. Now it looks like that's clearly in jeopardy with the Baylor quarterback issues. What about Leonard Fournette?
This is the thing. I mean, Leonard Fournette was clearly the guy a couple weeks ago heading into the Alabama game. Then Alabama stuffed him in that one. He's put up okay numbers the past couple weeks, but they've started to lose. And as you know, Kerry, you need to be on a national championship contending team in most years to win the Heisman. And clearly LSU is not that anymore. You know, as the heat has risen on Les Miles, his head coach, Leonard Fournette has steadily fallen out of the Heisman race. Now he's still leading the country in rushing. They have an opportunity this week against Texas A&M, game that they should win. So maybe a big performance there helps him. But he has 1 fewer game than everyone else because their opener was canceled. And you look at Derrick Henry, you look at McCaffrey, even Dalvin Cook from Florida State. Other running backs are moving ahead of him in part because their teams are performing better.
Yeah, so Fournette not quite out, but really needs a huge game against the Aggies. Here's a good question for you, Adam. Who's the best fictional college football player of all time? Who should have won the Heisman if we're talking about the non-real world?
We did our research, as we always do.
As we always do.
And there are not that many college football movies to begin with. And a lot of them are about bad teams. Necessary Roughness, for instance, great movie. team barely won a game.
Scott Bakula.
Exactly. Rudy was a real story, and obviously he only played one play. I was looking at the program, Joe Kane. Joe Kane did not have a lot of Heisman qualities in a year that began with a lot of Heisman hype. I'm going to go Forrest Gump. We only saw limited highlights of what he did at Alabama, but all he did was score touchdowns and run out of the stadium.
He did run out of the stadium. He was All-American. However,
Yes.
we don't know if he won the Heisman Trophy. I'm sure they would have alluded to that in the movie. Fun fact here about Forrest Gump. Over the course of my research, according to the Forrest Gump Wikipedia page, the author, Winston Groom, originally pictured a 6'6", 240-pound halfback played by, do you know who?
Ooh, I don't know.
John Goodman.
Wow.
Could you imagine if John Goodman was Forrest Gump?
240?
What
I
kind of
I think
movie?
John's a little above 240.
I think they're being pretty liberal with that number. That's going to do it for this edition of Drive Thru. Forrest Gump Heisman Trophy winner. He's Adam Rittenberg. I'm Kerry Chow.
It's another edition of Drawing Conclusions, where this week we look at the world of college football through the artwork of ESPN.com.
There's the snap, placement, kick is on the way, it is up, he's got a lot of leg, and he's got it, he's won the football game.
Down go the Buckeyes. Sparty held Ohio State to 132 yards, the fewest ever by an Urban Meyer coach team, snapping the Bucs' 23-game win streak and leaving the Big Ten race wide open. It wasn't pretty, but the Irish pulled out a win at Fenway, adding another win to their resume in hopes of capturing the college football playoff crown.
The Bears win and hand the Cowboys their first loss of the season.
Baylor, with help from the second and third string quarterback, dropped 45 points on Oklahoma State to capture their first win in Stillwater since 1939, as the Bears crunched the Cowboys and stoked the fire in the Big 12 title race.
Blitz coming, Johnson fires, incomplete, Florida survives.
And Florida welcomed the Owls into the swamp, thinking it would be a cakewalk. But the Gators needed overtime to get the W and keep their playoff hopes alive. That's it for now, college football fans. Until next time, we'll keep drawing conclusions.